Welcome to part 6 of my journey into studying and preparing for the ACP-520. We got Robert King Bob Wen joining us here today. As always,
Hello,
thank you,
everybody.
Bob, for that moral support. And yeah, let's jump into it because time is of the essence, and we definitely want to finish section or module 2 today. So I'm just going to share my screen, and we're going to pick off where we left off, which was we're still in section 2.2. And we got through a lot of it. We found some discrepancies, if you will, and we've already reached out to Atlassian. And by we, I do mean Bob. And so stay tuned. Stay tuned for any updates coming in from Atlassian. But we are going to continue our journey, just going down the list here, and then we'll jump into examples as appropriate. So when we last left off, we're going to be talking about making changes to a managed user account. Now, if you remember from earlier, managed accounts are rather tricky to modify, and so I'm excited to see what we're learning here because hopefully it's in line with what I'm expecting, which is a whole lot of nothing. But let's find out. Hello, Greg. Thank you for joining. Greg is a fellow friend of mine, and thank you for being here and learning here on this journey. All right. So make changes to user account. So which user management experience do you have? Again, we've already talked about this. So it's interesting that Atlassian on every single page is putting this information up for us, but we are going to be on the centralized. Just as a reminder, in case you're coming in, this is part 6, so we have the other 5 parts already available out there. But in case you're joining us for the first time, and keep in mind that Atlassian has not 1, not 2, but 3 different UIs, and you're going to be quizzed on the middle one. The middle UI is the one that is actually on the exam, and so it's interesting that Atlassian, it's troubling in my opinion that there's three different right answers sometimes.
Well,
But yeah,
understand that again, and we can't stress this enough. One of the takeaways that we got from the Atlassian from the Atlassians that write the test is that the course follows the test. In other words, they're linked. So
yep.
as long as you are studying on your course, whenever you register for it and pay for it, that's what you should be following for your test.
Correct. Yeah, I just make sure that sometimes, because there's 3 versions of this, your mileage may vary. But if it's not on here, then it's not on the test, or vice versa, right? Like it's the stuff in here in this course that you get when you buy the exam. That's what you're on the hook to know. So manage the account. Now this one's going to be tricky for me to demonstrate because I don't have Atlassian Access. I'm a team of Uno, and I don't have Atlassian Access. So we're going to rely a little bit more on these slides here, and I'll kind of just give you my knowledge from what I know, having worked with managed accounts. And so one of the main things that they call out here first is that in order to view your managed accounts, you're not going to go to like users. Those are not going to be the place that you're going to want to go to, but rather you're going to want to go to directory from within admin.atlassian.com and then click on managed accounts.
Yep.
Then from there, you're going to see the list of all the various users that you have. Now, depending, I don't know, I don't know why it shows me this, because I feel like this is not something I've ever been able to do. But again, keep in mind that I'm coming in from the OG original old UI. In the old UI, you can't do this. So I'd be very surprised if it's something that is now available. Bob, I don't know if you have any experience in this, but I historically cannot, for a managed account, change any of the details. All those details are stored in the Active Directory, and they would have to be pushed from over there into Jira, and everything's like essentially grayed out for me. Any thoughts there?
So what I've seen is that it has there's a small subset of the Active Directory details that Atlassian has can pull through Atlassian Access. And I think it works both ways, which is why on newer UIs, you might be able to do things like change user details like the name, the job title, the department and the location, and the email address, and the profile pictures. So I'm trying to remember exactly off of the REST API that allows you to either access this information or to allow you to change this information. But yeah, originally on older UIs, you'd be out of luck. You'd actually have to go to the source itself, you know, the Active Directory or the LDAP, and have it done. But
I'll have to take a look. Yeah, I'll have to take a look and see if I can find it in some like a more newer UI. But again, I don't have Atlassian access. It's kind of challenging. But yeah, and if as a general rule of thought, though, this stuff, right? It's just semantics, though. It's just like extra metadata for a user. It doesn't impact the user's interaction or utilization of the tool. So this is just some person wanting, metadata for their account to be accurate. It other than the email, because the email is like the most important part, right? The email is that unique identifier, and then the full name is the next important part because that full name will be displayed everywhere. But your engineering title, department, and location, they're not going to be critical, and those are not going to be something that I would invest too many calories as a Jira admin fixing up. I think for the most part, I just accept whatever's coming in from my source, which is usually that Active Directory. So there's that. We did talk about this earlier. So updating the email addresses. So if you want to update the email address of a managed account, though, to a different one, you're going to need to make sure that that new account is verified. Now, this is something that's really interesting to me, Bob, because this is not something I've considered, and I have not ran into the situation. But if you're, I'm going to use some strong wording here, but if you're the victim of an M&A, right? I've always been on the receiving end of an M&A where a group of people are coming to me.
You're the big fish that just got bigger.
Yeah. But if you're the small fish that just jumped into the big pond, your email is going to change. Yes. And the way Atlassian treats those emails is that email is that unique identifier. So Alex at Super Awesome, what was it? What about
Super Awesome URL?
So by the way, folks, we're gonna have a departure from our at kingbob.com email address because apparently first of all, we totally faked at King Bob, right? We're just inside joke if you're part of the the QuizWiz community. But apparently kingbob.com leads to like a watch website that looks rather shady.
It's already been taken.
So we've been advised to not mislead you and send you all to kingbob.com, and rather one of our fellow content creators, Mr. Rodney, the Jira guy Nissen, owns superawesomeurl.com. So we're going to be using superawesomeurl.com as an example going forward. But anyways, so let's just assume that we're changing my email from atech to superawesomeurl.com. I now have two identities in the eyes of Jira if you don't go through this process, right? Because every unique email is a unique individual. So you just can't go and like change your email. I mean, you can, but if you were to go and make two accounts, then you would have two separate accounts. You're not the same individual. Even though you're the same human, you're going to, in the eyes of Atlassian, you are two individuals. So what you need to do is you need to change your email from the old to the new. And I'm interested to see how this works at scale, like in enterprises, because I think this is, I mean, all you're going to do here is just, select the email and update it, which is cool when you have one person. But if you have 10,000, probably not something I want to do here manually.
And I'm sure that this is a common situation when doing transfers or migrations.
So I would, if you're in that situation of an M&A, again, not for the exam, but just, situational awareness for being an admin, I would open a support ticket with Atlassian and say, hey, I just bought a new company. They come with baggage. I need helps. Because those going through each one of these accounts is going to be a pain in the butt. And you don't want them. I mean, maybe it just depends on the situation, right? You may want them to lose their Jira data. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's just such an involved conversation. Definitely reach out to someone like Release Team or another solution provider here to help you out, because M&As are not something you should be doing on your own, especially at that size, right? Like 10 people, sure. But when you got hundreds and thousands of users and you're going through an M&A, it's a lot more headache. Changing your profile picture. So this is, again, the very simple one-off things. Most people just leave your initials, your first name, last name, initials. That's your icon. If you want to be cool, you can change your profile picture. This is how you're going to do it for these managed accounts. Although, can the user still do it themselves on their own? I feel like they can. If they go through the profile, no?
Well, remember,
Like if a user clicks over here, they're managed.
Account, the profile picture on that you see on id.atlassian.com is going to be not necessarily managed there. Although I think you can change it on id.atlassian.com. I haven't.
These are just these are just details I never pay attention to. So I'm like, I don't know. Within the world of Jira, like I don't know. I feel like it's less important. I feel like Teams is Slack is a very important place to have your profile picture, because especially in a asynchronous remote world, I don't know what people look like, but in Jira, I don't ever associate like a persona to the ticket, if you will.
But remember that the Atlassian account is kind of a passport to everywhere. So if you do anything on the Atlassian community, for instance, if you have questions and you want to ask those questions on the Atlassian community forums, you're going to be authenticating through your Atlassian account, managed or otherwise. Yeah. So when you do that, those details like the pictures and locations, they can be visible on things like
on those
the Atlassian community.
And one last piece here, though, these are managed accounts, right? So if you have a 10,000 person company and you have 10,000 people that want their picture, they're not going to go and do it. You have to come in and do it. So this might not be something you want to advertise as a Jira admin, just FYI, in case you want to save on carpal tunnel. All right. Managing a user's product access. So this is going to be very similar to what we talked about before, but this time you're going to go to that managed accounts. You're going to select the user, and then you're going to put the product access that they belong to. Again, I can't show this because I don't have Atlassian access on my specific account. But you'll pick the 3 dots, manage product access, and then everything else that we've talked about in the past, that whole user, customer, which product they get to, that should all apply, and you can give them access to those products there. Although I think this is superfluous though, right? Like if you're just on a directory, the user should show up and you should just be able to manage the user per the norm. I think it's just a little extra, no?
Yeah.
Exclude user from 2-step verification. Not recommended, right? But you definitely can do this. So if your organization enforces a 2-step verification, obviously you're using Atlassian Access, which allows you to enforce 2-step verification. You can also temporarily exclude the user from being able to do that. You do have to. There's 2 ways to do this. Really, there's like you can create an authentication policy that doesn't enforce 2-step verification, and you can just move that user to there. Or you can follow these steps here, which is you go again to that managed account. There's a security section in the UI, and there's going to be a section for 2-step verification, and you can exclude them from there. Now, why would you do this? I don't know.
There might actually be service accounts that you create that need to do things. And
you just said an area that I don't mess around with service accounts in Jira. I just tell everybody we don't have any.
Well, if you're doing any sort of integration and it's done through service accounts, account and password.
I know. Yeah, no, I know. But I'm always the one that I put my name on that integration, because it's difficult to track down when things go rogue.
So yeah,
service accounts are just not, from a cybersecurity perspective, not a great idea, since you lose traceability as to who's doing the action. So when things go south on you, it was a service account. It's really hard to track down who's done it. So anyway, that's your cybersecurity tip of the day, independent of Atlassian. Force a user's device to log out. This I kind of like. So this is a good cybersecurity practice here, unlike the other stuff that we were looking at. So when Jira or Atlassian tracks which devices people are logging in from. So if a user is logged into a device and they have their credentials saved, and you don't have the 2FA or SSO enabled, you could force that device to be logged out of there. So in case that device is compromised, maybe they lost their phone, maybe they lost their laptop, and you want to remove that device from auto logging in, you can just force log them out. So this is a really, really good backdoor admin save your behind type of feature. So this is something you would definitely look at. I've never actually used it because most people are pretty cautious nowadays, but in the unlikely event, and most people use something like, your Okta, Microsoft login to add that extra layer of security. But in the unlikely event, just know that you can also force the logout.
Yep.
Require a user to reset their password. This again it's interesting that it's here because usually my managed accounts don't have a password. They don't usually set a password for Atlassian. They usually, when you're buying for, like, I feel like these things here, this forced logout, this enforced exclude the two-step, and this reset a password, right? When you're paying extra for the ability to have security, it makes no sense to pay for it but then not use it. And these are all like, here's how to like work around, not, it seems silly to me. But in the likely event that you need to have the user reset their password, because in my experience, most users who have a password to log into Jira, it's going to be managed behind their login to Okta. So it's their whatever Okta setup that they have. And once they're authenticated via Okta, then they're in Jira, because that's what our identity provider is going to do for us. So it seems counterintuitive. Like most users that I know don't even know what a Jira password would be for them, because they would just come in authenticated through Okta. But Bob, you got any experience there?
And I do, and that is, it is possible to have verified domains and managed accounts and not take that extra step yet to Atlassian access. There is one small sliver, and that is if your company has its email domain using Gmail. In other words, if you're using Google Apps for business, and they with that subscription they allow you to use Gmail as kind of the email server. Atlassian Access then, or I'm sorry, then you could actually set up a verified domain through Gmail, through the Google Workspace. And then any accounts that you have in that email domain would then be managed accounts. You don't take the extra step of getting an Atlassian Access subscription, and you'd still be doing authentication through Google usernames and passwords, but not take that extra step of SSO.
Yeah.
So,
but even then, though, they would still change their Google password, not necessarily their Jira password. So again, in my 7 years of doing this, and my last 4 years of doing it in the cloud, very seldom have I had to reset a password. I can't even remember, unless I put somebody intentionally in an authentication policy that is password driven, but then I bypass my entire reason to have Atlassian access. So anyways, for everybody at home watching, if you ever have any questions here of what we're covering, that chat is available for you to utilize here. So we'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
And then we also, after these things are released, we also scan the comments that come about.
Feel free. So if you're watching the replay, if you have questions, King Bob is really, really good at that. And I also see every comment. All right. So the last item here is revoking users' API token. So this is a good idea. Again, cybersecurity policy. This is another one of those good ones. When you have a user, and we'll talk about the activation in just a second, but when you have a managed user and they leave the company, from a security standpoint, their ability to log into your Jira is usually taken care of by that source, by your Active Directory. But those API tokens are still there. Now, this to me is a catch-22. Is that the right? I don't know if I'm using catch-22 correctly. We'll find out. Let me describe what I'm talking about, right? So when a user, let's just say Timmy's over here, and they made some integration, right? Remember, I'm not a big fan of service accounts, but if Timmy made an integration to like AHA, and there's an API token that is being utilized for Timmy, well, if Timmy left the company, the API token still stays. I don't know what happens to that integration though, because Timmy's account is gone, but the API token remains. And as a vulnerability, right, you don't want that to happen, right? So I want to be able to come in and revoke that key from folks that are no longer in the company at the risk of breaking that integrations. But in my opinion, that's a good break, because it's going to force you to assign Jimmy now sorry, my creativeness with names is really bad. But it's going to force you to now, do Jimmy as the user who's owning that integration, because I think it's a gift and a curse, right? But you do generally want to remove API tokens from deactivated or deleted users. Just know that it comes with that risk that you could potentially break whatever integrations they had under their name. But in general, your admins should be usually the ones that have the API tokens and not just regular users. I'm always cautious and wary when I see a regular user with an API token, because I'm like, what are you up to? What would you need an API token for?
And then right now, Simon is agreeing with me.
Why am I against service accounts? Okay, so I explained this, but I'll give you the 2-second version of why.
The case of having of having a service account so that the integration doesn't break when Timmy leaves the company.
Yes, but at the same time, if I have a service account, then I can maliciously log into that service account and maliciously do something, and you wouldn't know if it was Timmy or Jimmy or Billy, right? It's whoever's in that service account. And
that's why admins on the service accounts.
It's still a gray area. It's an area that I try to avoid.
All right, moving on.
Not a good practice. There's a lot of companies, right? When I worked at Boeing and Northrop, we did not have service accounts. Like, it was not allowed to have service accounts. Everybody had to have a special ad. Like, I even had a physical badge for my elevated escalated privileges that tracked everything that I did, right? So, like, I've just grown up with the idea that service accounts are a no-no, especially in the defense world, because you want traceability as to who done it. There's some bad people out there, people. All right, next up, deactivate a managed account. So when you deactivate a managed account, we'll stop billing you. That's good. That's really, really good. Thank you, Atlassian. Because you can restore the user account at any time. We won't delete. Again, really, really good. And so we always want to work on deactivator. Deactivator is a good thing. I've seen this countless times where you have a contractor, they leave, right? Whatever the contract elapses, 6 months later, budget all of a sudden makes its appearance, and you're like, "Oh, I can afford my contractor again." Well, rather than setting them up as a new person, you just reactivate everything, and they pick up right where they left off. So deactivation is definitely the way to go. If you recall from part 5, deletion is not really something that I'm a big, huge proponent of either. So sorry, Simon. Let me know if you want to have a hot take with deleting users as well. During deactivation, the user will no longer be able to log into your Atlassian account services. And this, to me, is a really, really good thing. I think from an audit and security perspective, this saves my butt, because when I get audited and they're like, "Hey, are you doing your quarterly or annual user?" Help me out, Bob. Big companies need to do like a user review, right? You need to see who's accessing the system. And so I always say, I always fall behind the scapegoat or the safety that I can say, "Hey, if a user is fired, if a user quits, Atlassian takes care of it for me." So I never have to go in and clean up after a user, because they're managed, because we're using this Atlassian Access. It's something that is, as long as HR takes care of it, then I'm taken care of. And so I really, really like that functionality. But in the unlikely event that you want to manage, again, I've never seen where I have to physically deactivate. In fact, all my deactivations are usually grayed out, because I can't touch my users that are verified and coming into my
because it's
domain.
It's done over on the source of truth on the Active Directory.
But in the unlikely event that you do have that, it is not grayed out, you want to know that these steps exist, right? And definitely for the exam, you definitely want to know the difference between deactivate and delete it. But yeah, you just come back into your managed accounts, you click on deactivate account if it's available, and they'll just be deactivated.
Yeah.
To deactivate multiple accounts. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
So I was just going to say, to deactivate, this is a pain. From my experience, you're limited to 20 at a time. So there's a checkbox, but if you have 100 users you got to deactivate, you're going to have to do this 5 times 20 at a time. That's my 2 cents there. Go ahead, Bob.
Okay. So I'm gonna go on to a little thing about talking about words matter, right? We have all these words in here, like suspended, removed, deactivated, deleted, right? And what's the difference? And the difference here we're talking about is that on an unmanaged Atlassian account, in other words, the one where you alone control the fate of that Atlassian account. It's up to you to do that. You can an organization admin can suspend your access, and an organization admin can actually they can suspend your access, or they can remove your access. All right. If you're on a managed account, you have less control of the existence of that account, since it's tied to the email domain, a verified email domain, and the organization there, the org admin there, can deactivate the account, like we just saw, and the org admin can also delete that account. So
yeah, so
just make sure that you have the words straight for the exam.
And most people, like, it's just hard to tell, right? But you want to know both. It depends on your company, which boat you're on, but it's a really, really good idea from a career perspective for any Jira admin to know both, which is why you're quizzed on both. Account appearance after deactivation, though. So when the account's deactivated, anyone with access to your org will still see the user, which is really good, and it'll just say deactivated. So this is an easy way to skip them. So what I do oftentimes is I do a lot of cleanup. So just because I have active users doesn't mean that they're entitled to a license, especially when you have a limited amount of licenses. And so what I do is I ignore all the deactivated ones, because I already know the UI will say deactivated in parentheses right there. And so I skip them because I already know they're not using up a license. But then I'm looking at everybody else who doesn't have the word deactivated next to them, and I'm checking their last login date. And if it's greater than like 90 days, you're out, buddy, because I need that license. And then I get usually when I do that, I get a swarm of angry email, because they're like, what happened to my license? I'm like, you need to log in. I don't have enough licenses for you all. All right. So reactivating an account. So if you no longer want the account to be deactivated, then you can just simply reverse steps, right? They make it easy here at Atlassian. Go back to your managed accounts, find the user, because again, they didn't get removed, they weren't deleted. Find them, reactivate them, and you're done. And again, if you want to do it multiple times, you just click on multiple deactivated ones and click on that reactivate button. Deleting a managed account. So this is a fun one here. So deleting an account is permanent. If you think you'll need the account again, don't delete it. Especially if they're like contractors and you think that there's an ounce that contractor might come back, don't delete, always deactivate. But once they're permanently gone, they're gone. You will have 14 days, kind of similar to the non-managed account that we talked about last section, but you will have 14 days. But after that, they're gone. So if you ever need them back, they're basically going to be a new user. Can you enable SSO via Active Directory in a managed account? Let's see. So it's a handshake, Greg, and so you can in your Active Directory, you basically manage the individual and the metadata of the individual, but the SSO enforcement and enablement happens on the Jira side. Because you have to, but you do need to like work with your Okta team or whoever you're working with, whatever identity provider you have, to enable like the chiclet. And then the chiclet or Okta will talk to Atlassian, and then the whole thing goes through. But you definitely do it on the Atlassian side,
or through Atlassian Access.
Yeah, and you also need the Atlassian Access subscription to enable all this. So if you haven't seen it before, it's probably because you don't have Atlassian Access. But there is a section, so I can go into my Jira in here, and there is a section for me to, where would it be? Security.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, where I can set up an identity provider and I can pick the identity provider and then start going through the process. But if I try to do any of these, so like I pick Okta, which is my favorite, it'll tell me like, hey, start a free 30-day trial. So you're stopped right away. Atlassian wants their money very, very quickly. But once you get this going, then you can proceed with the rest. All right. So deleting the account. So the delete. So if a user's account's been around for a while, they may have belong to multiple organizations and have access to multiple products. So their personal data may be in multiple places. This section includes the details about where that personal data is being deleted from, what personal data is deleted, and what personal data isn't deleted. So they're going to delete the personal data from Atlassian accounts services within 30 days, except in a few cases. which are required for legitimate business or legal reasons. So information related to the purchases, which we're required to keep for financial reporting, records showing that we deleted someone's account, which we need to provide to regulators, and data that is part of an active lawsuit, which are required to keep by law. The user has the right to submit complaints to the supervisory authority in their country. Where personal data is deleted from. So they're going to be deleted from Jira Cloud, Confluence Cloud, Bitbucket, and Trello. What's deleted? So you're losing the name and the email, which is really the important stuff. But basically everything we talked about that you can add, all that stuff goes away. What's not deleted? Again, it's going to be kind of in line with what they just said, right? So content, right? So anything that they made, all the issues that they made, that stuff doesn't go away. Inconveniently, it'll just say like former user or deleted user or something like that, but it's all there, which makes traceability kind of hard. Any personal data in the content of the user or someone else created is reserved. And the user's profile information might be stored in the marketplace or custom apps installed. And so to delete the account, though, you just, again, assuming you can do this. I actually never deleted a managed account. Actually, from my experience, I haven't been able to delete a managed account. What I need to do is I need to take that account, put it in a different authentication policy that isn't like SSO enforced and all that good stuff, and then I can delete the user. So it's quite the step process. And the only reason I bring this up is because I have a Jira with over 100,000 people, and I've been wanting to clean up 60,000 of them, but I have to do this manually one by one. I have to change their policy and then delete them one by one. And so I don't feel like doing that. So I just leave 60,000 superfluous accounts, which is not a good practice.
So one more tidbit about deleted accounts. If you need to change your mind, it actually becomes deletions become permanent after 14 days. They're kind of in a holding pattern for 14 days. So if you ever deleted an account and realized, oops, I shouldn't have done that, as long as it's within that 14 days, you can bring that account back.
All right, and this is, I don't know that any of this is going to be in the test, so I'm just going to power through this. I think we'll focus on what's in the exam section in a second. But during the grace period, when the account's deactivated, anyone with access to your organization's account will still see the user's name in the product along with the deactivated. When the user's permanently deleted, it'll say former user, which again, not very helpful. The user's notification email. So when you schedule a user's account for deletion, they'll get an email explaining they can no longer access their account, how their name will appear going forward. Oh, this is fun because I've never been on the receiving end on this one. And details about what happens to their personal data. So they got at least a little situational awareness there. Marketplace and custom apps. So when you schedule the account to be deleted, they'll get the confirmation. Marketplace apps were created by third-party vendors to add extra functionality to find out whether marketplace. So this is just going to vary app to app. And then cancel account deletion. So if you scheduled it and you change your mind, there's going to be a cancel deletion button available for you for that user. Yep. So that's it for that one. Let's jump into section 2.2 here and do my least favorite part of the job here, which is sample questions. So again, if it's on here, there's a 99.9999% chance that it'll be in the test, or at least it's fair game. It's open. It's fair if it's on here. So distinguish user-related terms. So am I in the right section? Yes. So first, we must distinguish between some related terms found in the previous lesson and this one. So specifically, you want to understand the terms users and managed accounts, which we've been kind of reading to death here. There's also unmanaged accounts. Wow. So let's see what those three are. So user is under directory users, right? This is everything we covered in part 5, which is just a regular individual in a company or team that isn't using Atlassian Access. So this is what you're going to manage there. If you are using Atlassian Access, then you're going to have your managed accounts, which are coming in through your identity provider. And so that's what your managed accounts are. And now unmanaged accounts are going to be Atlassian accounts that are not claimed by any company, are considered unmanaged, also known as self-managed. These are often Atlassian accounts created by individuals using their personal email address. If you are an unmanaged account, you are the owner of your Atlassian account and can update the details of the account yourself. So basically, if you're like an Azure admin and you want to, and your account is managed, well, you can also add yourself like your Gmail to do some like site testing. And it looks like that'll be unmanaged because their company doesn't own your Gmail. All right, so not all your managed accounts are your users, so they not all managed accounts are your users. So they must be granted product access first. That is, you may have managed accounts that are not users with product access. So this is a really, really good point here, is that typically what will happen, like let's just say you have an organization with 10,000 users. Well, all 10,000 users will be managed, but let's just say you only have 1,000 licenses. So out of those 10,000, from that pool of 10,000, you only have to give access to 1,000. And so then those become your users. So there can be a discrepancy. It's not always true, but there can be a discrepancy between what the number of users you see in your managed accounts versus the actual users that you have.
Yep.
Not all users are managed accounts. So that is, again, not everybody is going to have that domain that is going to be managed, right? So you can have other companies or other external people or just personal, whatever you want, but there will be, not everybody has to be managed if you subscribe to Atlassian Access. On the distinction between users and managed accounts in between, so this is very important. So get these memorized. So this is especially true since some features can only be used with managed accounts. So for example, you can only enforce two-step verification on your organization's managed accounts. You can deactivate and delete managed accounts, but you're not your unmanaged ones. Maybe that's why I haven't been able to delete them. Maybe mine are all messed up. Org admins can edit the details of a managed account directly, but only suggest changes for unmanaged accounts. That I did not know. Only users themselves can edit and delete their own unmanaged accounts if no organization manages them. So these folks, this is what we're talking about, where I have experience from what I've seen and interacted with Jira. When I go take the test, I'm scared to death for this. But it's a matter of just me studying through here, because this is the truth. This is what will actually you'll be tested on. So these are the facts that you need to have memorized in order to successfully do well on the test. Because all of this that I read here goes against everything I've ever seen, which is why I made the comment. I'm like, maybe all my accounts are unmanaged then, because I've never been able to do any of this in my thing. Verifying the domain. So this is important for you to know how to do it. So just step one to verify the domain, right? Remember, there's two different ways. There's the HTTPS and the DNS, and there's actually a couple of other ones now, but HTTPS and DNS are the two most popular ones. And so when you set up your Atlassian Cloud organization, you can verify its domain or multiple domains. And again, you need to have access to that root directory. And then two, you claim those accounts. And so that'll just basically make the discovery and bring those accounts into your managed accounts based on who owns that domain. And so you're an org admin for the Woozlemania. See, these people are worse than my examples, Bob. Organization. At least my Timmy, Billy, and Jimmy rhyme. If you perform the necessary steps to verify the Woozlemania domain and your Jira Cloud, some or all the Atlassian IDs for users at Woozlemania can become managed. What is the step for verifying? So verifying is you're going to click on verify domains, which is taking you to settings and domains, and then you're going to add the TXT record if you're going DNS, or the HTTPS if you're going down the other route. You'll click on verify domains, and then after that, once it's verified, and it is almost instantaneous, you'll click on claim accounts. Now, I think it's instantaneous if you do the DNS one, but the HTTPS, I think, takes some time. So I think that's why Atlassian...
like usually a day or two or something like that.
Which is why Atlassian wants you to use the DNS one. What's the process to claim accounts? So you can claim accounts either automatically or manually, which allows org admins to claim all or some accounts. So the automatic option is just going to bring everybody. The manual options, you're cherry picking. This is great if you have 10 people, but if you have 10,000, then you might want to use the CSV. Viewing and editing managed accounts. So an organization can verify multiple domains and hence claim different accounts. So you're going to come here. Oh, so at least we have some UI section. So this is what I can't show you, because my UI, if you come back over here to directory, oh, it does have managed accounts, but then I don't have anything because I don't have an actual Atlassian access. But this is what it looks like. So when you click on that managed accounts, then you'll see the people. So I would expand these, right? So this is your managed accounts. This right here is your deactivated list. And this right here is your total list. So where can you find details of a particular user? So once you click on the managed account, you see the details. So the user pops up here. You can click on them and click on that show details. Where can you see if the user has an unverified email? Well, it'll tell you right there. And then how can you find which products have a user can access? So there's a product access section on the individual's page. So I'm assuming once you click into them, then you have there's a paragraph in the middle that'll show you what products they have access to.
Right. And we've seen it. It looks similar. It should look similar to what we've shown before for unmanaged accounts.
Yeah. Now, deactivating and deleting managed accounts. So deactivating is an org admin can deactivate an account, but not an unmanaged one. For example, they can deactivate the account of a user who is going on a sabbatical until the user's return. The individual with the deactivated account can no longer log into the organization, sites, or products. They can also not log into any cloud, organization, or Atlassian accounts. Then they're not billable. But because you can restore them at any time, Atlassian will delete them. And when you delete them, they're gone. I don't think, and then you have 14 days to revert. So some exam hints. Well, be clear in the distinction between user-related terms and know what actions are available based on the type of account. I feel like this is probably going to be the section where I have the hardest time with, especially since I'm still not clear what a verified and unverified and unmanaged and managed accounts are. I'm so confused based on what I've seen. So let's see if the test examples help me figure it out. Understand the difference between deactivate and suspension, which we've talked about, right? So you suspend users, you deactivate managed accounts. Recall the steps to verify and claim your domain. So it's 4 steps. Hopefully it's not that bad. Okay. Questions?
All right, here we go.
Man, I should have brought water. All right, your directory contains the following. Apollo. His account is not managed by any organization. So here, his account is managed by an organization, which is definitely true. This is the moment where I wish nobody was on the internet at 6:41 in the morning. Okay, so an org admin can delete Apollo's account. So Apollo is unmanaged, so no. An org admin can deactivate Apollo's account. And again, they're unmanaged, so that should be grayed out. So that should be a no. Apollo can delete his own account. I'm going to say yes, but we'll come back. Zahir can delete his own account. I'm going to say no because it's managed. Zahir has a verified email address. Maybe they, if you saw from the pictures from before, you oops, too far. You can have a managed account but not be verified, but we don't have that information. So I'm going to say probably a no since it's a maybe. And so here can update his email address. It is managed, so it doesn't look. If I remember correctly, the admin has to go and update it for them. So this would be a -2. So I'm going to go with C. Apollo can delete his own account because it's a not managed account. Ta-da!
Nice.
And the next one. In an organization, you navigate to directory managed and you see the following. Total 5, 1 deactivated. What can you definitely conclude? See, this is where, folks, read the question correctly. What can you definitely conclude based on this information? There's at least 2 approved domains. No, you don't get that from here. There's at least 5 billable users. Not really, because the total will include your deactivated, I think. So I'm not 100% sure. I'd have to research this a little bit more, but we'll come back to that. There are at least 5 verified emails. Again, not really, because the other one showed us 3 and they were all unverified, so no. There's at least 5 users with product access. Maybe. There's at least 1 suspended user. No. You know what? These are all, I'm very confused on this one. But let's see which ones are definitely false. So there's at least 1 verified domain. I think it's the most true. But let's eliminate the other ones. So suspended user, no, because this is a managed account, so we don't have suspension. So E is completely out of the picture.
Okay.
This one is completely out of the picture too, because I can't get that information.
Okay.
And this one too, the 5 verified email addresses, this is also I can't verify that either. So that leaves me with, there's at least 5 billable users. There's at least 5 users with product access, and there's at least 1 verified domain. So let me think this through. So the product access is not definitely true, right? Because I can have 5 users, but they don't have to have access to anything. So I'm going to eliminate this one. I can't 100% without at least clicking into it or seeing and seeing the details of each user, I can't conclude that with this information. So I'll say this one's wrong. So that leaves me with 5 billable users here and 1 verified domain. Now, the reason I'm on the fence here, though, is because I feel like this total 5 is the total that includes deactivated and not deactivated. But I'm not 100% sure. I'd want to go look at an example. But if I was correct, then I feel like these would be like. But then I also need to see, like, are these people active, right? Because I know deactivated, so they could be active. But then billable in which sense, right? Like billable from Atlassian Access, I'm assuming. But oh boy, I'm gonna go with F, even though I kind of feel like it's B. But I'm gonna go with F. Let's see what happens. It's correct.
Okay. They give explanations. Okay, so before we wander off, and yes, I know we're kind of
I want to see
15 minutes ahead to the other section, but take a look at the justification as to why B is wrong. So when you go through this course, and you pick your answers, they'll give an explanation as far as why answers are right or wrong.
But I got it right. So, but it's incorrect. I know. I'm just saying I got it right. I'm 2 for 2, Bob. Don't ruin my streak.
I'm not gonna ruin your flow. But
so incorrect. So it's incorrect because you cannot say definitely that these managed accounts have product access and are billable. And that's kind of where I was going, right? Like they could be billable, but they might not have product access. But I feel, and this is again something that we probably need to talk with the Atlassians, if you will, where I think they're bastardizing the word billable. Billable to me doesn't mean that I get a bill because they have product access. Billable to me, especially in the context of managed accounts, which then pulls in Atlassian Access, means that I'm paying for their Atlassian Access license as a billable user. I'm less worried about if they have a Jira license or a Confluence license, right? Mm-hmm. Because the fact that they exist, and from what I've seen, the fact that this individual exists, I'm paying an Atlassian Access account, and thus they're billable. They don't need to have access to Jira. Like that would be a silly way to do it. But so that's kind of why I was on the fence there. But again, I'll follow up with Atlassian on that one. All right. So over to 5.2.3, we have 13 minutes, but only 2 sections. So let's see what we're going to be learning here. So managing groups. So define default product access groups, understand the configuration choices for default access groups, rules for default access groups, and purpose and rules for site admin groups. So let's take a look at both of these articles, and we might actually be able to finish this out. Uh-oh.
Yeah.
You saw that, right?
We're broken, yeah.
Yep, okay, it wasn't me. So that makes it easy. We're going to talk about one last item, but creating and updating groups, folks, really, really easy. I'm just going to show you. We won't even go through the documentation. You go to admin.atlassian.com, you click on groups. Here are your groups. Here's what you can do. You can create a group. Click on that button. Give it a name. Group members are going to be who you want in there and a description. Now, up until very recently, once you created a group, you can't actually edit it, but now you can. So now when you have a group that exists, we'll take Alex's group here, you can click on show details. And from here, we can click on these 3 dots and we can edit the group name, we can edit the description, or we can delete the group altogether. Now, we can also click on this button to add members to this group, and you can do it from here, you can do it from here, or you can alternatively go to a user like Rodney over here and add them to a group from over here. So there's a different variety of ways to do it. Now, the other thing I'll call out is this product access, which we talked about in the past, right? But when you go to products, and you go to a specific product like Jira Software here, we can click on that manage product. We can click on add group. We can find Alex's group, give it a role. And when we do that, this group will now automatically, when you put somebody in there, not just be a container for that user, but also grant them a license to this particular product. So it's a 2-for-1 special, if you will. The only last thing that I'll talk about is that there will be, and I don't know if Atlassian talks about this in their documentation here. I don't think I see it, but maybe we expand their documentation, but you may find yourself with groups that have a little lock icon on these. I don't have any, but if you had a little lock icon, that means that those groups are managed externally to Jira. and they're usually like an Active Directory group, which is where from your Active Directory ecosystem, that's where you're putting users in there. And you've told Jira, and you've done a handshake with Jira and said, hey, this group is external to Jira, but it's very important to me. And it doesn't have to be just one group, right? It can be a variety of groups. But those groups then get pushed through your Okta, then back into your Jira. And those groups, you can't manage them from within Jira. All that, the naming of it and all the who's in them happens outside of Jira. They're just there from like a provisioning perspective, from a user provisioning perspective. So that's what I'll say about groups, because their documentation is busted. It did. Is this something we tell? Is this something we tell Joanne?
We probably can.
Okay. So the other
go through this.
So the next section, so the next section, again, recap, we're on centralized. And this is probably everything I've already talked about, right? And I think we've talked about this already, right?
We've talked about it before.
So I don't think there's anything. I actually just showed you how to do it again. So I think this part is said and done. So let's just finish this section. We're going to go straight to.
I can share.
Sure.
How do I do that?
You click on this share screen on the bottom, and then it'll add it to the stage, and then you just add the stage to the thing here. So start with your presentation thing on the bottom. Did you get that far?
Oh,
like there's a present button. Okay. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. Start with that, and then we'll go on to the next step.
There we go.
There you go.
Okay. So I just wanted to, and we've kind of talked about this before. We've taken a look at, and we've mentioned in the past when looking at product access, we have default access groups. And we've seen this before, right? When we look at groups associated with a product, oftentimes you'll see the little check boxes that mean that that the group in relationship to that product is a default access group. Now, what that means is in the past, we have seen the adding people or granting people access to a particular product like Jira Software or Confluence by mentioning that person or mentioning the product and granting them a specific role. Based upon that, what happens behind the scenes is that person gets added to all of the default access groups tied to that particular product. All right. And so you often have to be careful, because sometimes maybe that group might be identified as a default access group for more than one product or more than one site. So that's where somebody like Alex would just add the person directly to the group to grant them access to, say, Jira Software or Confluence. But another thing to note about default access groups is that it's possible to have more than one, like we've seen, and it's possible to remove a group from being a default access group. But if there is only one default access group to a product, you cannot delete that group. All right.
Cool.
Also, one last thing about default access groups. In the course, there is a special group. In the course, it's called site admins. If you have the newer UIs, it's called org admins. That group can never be a default access group. I think
perfect. Yeah, and that's right where we're here, right? So We have the special site admins group, which we haven't talked about, but your site admins, these are going to be the folks that have full God mode in your Jira. So be very, very careful who you put in there. And this section here is actually quite interesting, Bob. It just literally goes through questions.
Mm-hmm.
It's just okay. So product access is granted through product roles and one or more product access. The heck? Product access is granted through the product roles and one or more product access. I'm going to type in the word group. Really? Really? I got that right. Semantics. Groups. All right. English is hard. Product roles are always granted to groups, not the individuals. Ooh, that's tricky. Because you grant it to the individual, but it puts them in a group. So I'm going to say false. Because you give them to the...
I'm pushing towards true. I think it's...
But you give the product role to a user. You don't
but
give
you
it
do
to
it through a group.
But you do it to a group, but you put the user in the group. But in the UI, you're putting that user into that role. I'm gonna go with false just to see what happens, but I feel like it should be true. But this is one of those things, folks, where like it's very misleading, right? Because most of the time you don't go to a group, like you go and do it to a user, right? And so let's try it again. But yes, it's definitely to the group. All right, each product role within a product must have exactly one default access group. So yes, so we talked about that. What do you mean? Each product role within a group must have see, this is where you got to read this. Must have at least one default access group would make this correct. Read the questions correctly, folks. See, this is Bob. This is why I'm going to fail. I'm telling you.
You
Multiple group.
Okay.
I have to only get 39 right, people. 39 right. Multiple groups may grant the same role in a product. Multiple groups may grant the same role in a product. Yes.
Yes.
Ooh, that one. A single group may grant multiple product roles in the same product or multiple roles. Why is this so hard? A single group may grant multiple product roles in the same product. No, I don't think so because I don't think you can do that. Or multiple roles in multiple products. No, because the groups are well, I'm going to say false. It's true though. Dang it. The final concept is what makes granting product access so tricky. When an org admin is unaware where a group is used for product access, this is not helpful, Atlassian. This is not helpful. I don't know why this is true. This shouldn't be true. I feel like when you come over here,
I mean, you could...
The second part is...
Yeah, the second part is true. So...
But when I go over here and I go to add a product... Oh, look, it is a checkbox.
Oh, look at that.
But it's dumb, though. It's... I mean... What other role would you do? There's not just but one. Like, this role is not in the exam.
Go to Confluence. Confluence is a better example.
Well, no, like this one's a better example too, JSM.
All right.
But yeah, I guess it's a checkbox. So yes, folks, you can give multiple roles from the same group.
Okay.
Alex
has to withdraw his. That was dumb.
That was...
It's actually a good point. So remember this.
Remember. All right. Whenever a user is granted product access, they're automatically added to all the blank access groups for that product. The hell? Whenever a user is granted product access, they're automatically added to all the...
Go back to what I said about 3 minutes ago.
What did you say?
What I was talking about on my slide.
Oh, I didn't pay attention to it.
I was talking about one specific concept. Default.
Okay. Folks, this is tricky. Like, I do this every day for a living, and this is tricky. Get this, like, you just got to practice this and just go over this stuff because whatever's on these slides is what's on the exam. So you can bet your butt that the week leading into the exam, I'm going to be going through the section over and over and over and over and over.
Or reviewing this or reviewing this live stream over and over and over.
Yeah. All right. So custom groups, automatically created. So Atlassian automatically creates certain product access groups that allow naming convention with when a new organization is created or when new sites or products are added. The names of such groups include the product name. So yeah, Confluence users. Yeah, those are the automatic ones. Those are the default ones. I call them default ones, but those are the ones that ship with Jira. Then you get your created by the org admin. So this could literally be anything you want. The site admins group. Wow, this was backwards. How did this why did they make me go through hell? And then they're gonna make me go through hell a second time. These people. All right. So this group contains all the users who are org admins for an organization. So the site admins group is special. This, folks, right here is very important for you to understand these 5 check boxes here, because I've argued with Atlassian over what the power of site admins is, and they've beat me to submission because it's in here, and if it's in here, then it's correct. So how is the site admins group created? It's not. It's shipped with Jira. Can the site admins group be deleted? Hell no.
Nope.
It breaks Jira, unless you want to break Jira. What are the requirements for the group? Nothing. I mean, it's up to you, right? You get to pick who you want to be the admin. But usually the person that stands up the Jira is automatically the site admin. But basically, if you want somebody to have all the keys to the kingdom, put them in the site admins group. Can an org admin remove themselves from a group? No. An org admin can never revoke their own org admin privileges or revoke themselves from the site admins group. I would say this is false, but probably very true, because I've never actually tried to do it myself.
you can't.
Yeah. Yes, an org admin can add other users to this group, and it is a best practice to have at least 2 active users in the site admins, because you never know when somebody's not going to be there anymore. Deleting group. So site admins group, we can't delete it. Any product access group, we can't delete it until you first make it not a default. And if you remember, those out of the box ones, those automatic ones are always going to be non-deletable as well. So I don't care about hints. Let's go. Questions. Let's do this again.
All right.
All right. Confluence product access on a particular site is granted as shown. So we have Confluence users with 20 people and the Confluence admins with 2. This is the default group, and this is the roles that you get, user and admin. So which statement is true? Either group can be deleted. This would be false. These 2, for all intents and purposes, are the default ones. Either group can be used to grant your admin privileges. Maybe, but most likely not. Like this is Bob, I think two sessions ago we talked about this, right? Like keep your naming straight so you don't confuse yourselves. You could, if you wanted to, put them maybe, but I don't no. I'm just gonna say no. Especially since the product admin for Jira is like its own little bucket and its own little group as well. So I'm gonna still say no. Like definitely not. No Confluence user is a Confluence admin. That I can't say for true, because I don't know if 2 out of these 2 are from this 20. You could be in both. No Confluence admin is a software user. I can't tell either, right? There's not enough information. No, these are all false, dude. None of these has to be true. No org admin can access Confluence. This is tricky because there's an org admin. Don't you automatically get access to everything? Let's go through this one more time. Either group can be deleted. I would say no, because but I'm also making the assumption that these are the default groups, so I don't think so. Either group can be used to grant Jira admin privileges. I would say back to no, because Jira admin has their own group, and it's not a group that you can. It's not a product that you can go and add more groups to. I don't think.
Actually, that's not true.
So you're telling me I can come over here, go to my products, go to Jira admin, manage product. Oh, I can add groups. So yeah, I technically could if I wanted to then add this Confluence one. Not recommended, but you can. Okay, so
yeah,
but that's not true then. Well, I guess that's the true one then. If you look at it from the other side, right? This is like either of these 2 could also serve that purpose, because No Confluence user is a Confluence admin. That I can't confirm because, again, these two could be from over here, which makes them a user. And you could be a user and an admin if you wanted to. No Confluence admin is a Jira software user. That I can infer from here. And no org admin, I think, yes, I'm going to go with B. Yay. Let's move on. Review the current configuration of product access groups in Jira software. So we got Jira users, Jira admins, and site admins. It is possible to make a single change. It is possible to make a single change to the above configuration of a product access group. What? It is possible to make a single change to the above configuration of product access groups. Identify that single group's change. Review the configuration. Is this a question? It's not a question. It is possible to make a single change to the above configuration of product access groups. Identify that single group change.
Okay, so you have 5 choices. All right. Which one of these 5 is allowable?
Yeah, okay. So remove Jira users from the product access. As of right now, no, because it's a default group and you can't delete you can't remove it. Grant Jira admins the product admin role. Maybe. Grant site admins the product admin role. Make Jira admins a default group. That's possible. Make site admins a default group. I don't think that that's possible. I'm gonna go with D. Hey, I got it right.
You got it right.
All right. And I think, Bob, why don't we just spend another 5 minutes, because there's no articles for 2.4, but
right.
just
so
power through this.
So 2.4 is basically everything that you've known about managing users and managing groups. How do you troubleshoot that? And the way that an exam looks at that is it will present you with a situation and often give you enough to identify like the ramifications or a root cause. So I think through this section, we'll probably be just taking a look at
a summary of what we just, or troubleshooting all the questions that I have. Okay. So this lessons to understand the changes to users and groups and the effect that they have. So let's first discuss the impact of making changes to users and groups. So it's much easier to prevent a problem than to fix a problem. Great words of wisdom, Atlassian. If only this was applied to everything in life. All right. There are many places where users and groups appear in the admin hub and within the product. So while changes made to them are tracked in various audit logs at the level of the organization and the products, it is much harder to fix a problem after it's occurred than it is to prevent it. Org admins should appreciate the need for diligence before proceeding with changes. The impacts of making any change to users and groups can be far-reaching, and they are not always obvious. We will look at some of the most important impacts and considerations. So impacts to changes in the group. So we start by looking at the impact of changes to groups because users are members of groups. When a group is removed, it may remove product access or available content features within a product for all members of that group. So it's gonna look at the admin.atlassian.com, and then it's gonna, I actually never thought of calling it the admin hub, by the way, but this is genius. And then we'll look at Jira and Confluence. So from the admin hub, so groups are primarily used to provide product access to one or more products. They can serve as a default or non-default product access groups. When a user is granted access to a product, they're added only to the default groups. But when a user's product access is revoked, they are removed from all the product access group, including those which were defaults and those which were not. The impact on Jira. So groups are used throughout Jira for a lot of stuff. So global permissions, project permissions, issue security, notifications, workflows, and JQLs, member functional. In Confluence, they're done for global, space, and page permissions. The interesting part that I've always found about this, Bob, is that the groups are only maintainable by the admin and not by the individual. And there's the individuals, like a team lead or like your project manager, they're blinded to the group, what they are right? And so I've always, and I feel like the team is really what they're trying to make with that, but the team doesn't do any of this, and the team doesn't do any of this, which makes the team for me completely useless.
That's
But
true.
I hope
And
Atlassian bridges that one day.
well, you have to remember that groups came first.
I know.
Atlassian kind of, groups have been around for a long, 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 long time. And now they're starting to realize that maybe there need to be other collections of people that don't have as far-reaching privileges or configuration or are configurable, right?
Yeah.
And our good friend King Rodney says interesting is interesting way to say infuriating. So yeah.
That's a nice way.
So basically what this section is basically telling you about groups is if you delete a group, it's going to be that it may have more far-reaching implications
than just a bucket
beyond
of
product
people.
access.
Yeah.
You may be interrupting access to certain project permissions inside of Jira.
Access to a
You
whole
may,
dashboard, filters,
dashboard filters,
everything.
filter subscriptions. They may not get their daily filter subscription run if the group's been deleted.
Yeah. Notifications. All of a sudden, people stop getting notifications. Yeah. Security levels is a big one. I mean, I always use groups for security levels. So you get rid of the group, all of a sudden your security just got compromised.
Yep.
All right, so let's look at an example. So the table below shows 5 groups and access to those groups. So note, the first important concept, the group name itself is not indicative of the access it provides. So we've talked about this. It should, that's the best practice, but it doesn't because the tool allows you to screw yourself over if you want to. So while a default naming convention is used when a new organization is created, organizers can remove these default groups from product access and delete them entirely. Instead of using the original groups, they can introduce different groups with different names. I don't know that this is true. Let's try that. Here's one. Here's one. You can't delete these groups. Right? This is not something that's deletable. Holy moly. Yeah, no, you can't. But it's because it's a default group. What happens if I make it an undefault group then? I can't. So how do I make you See, I don't have the option. I thought that was the case. Let me make Bob's the default. Okay, now let me get rid of this one. See, you can't remove them. Did we find another one where we gotta go talk to?
Let me see.
Okay, I can move it to none. Okay, so that's weird that I can remove it the other way.
Okay.
Remove group from product. Folks, what I'm doing right here is breaking Confluence, so don't do this.
Now go back to
I am a trained professional. Okay, this is now 0. I still can't delete. Oh, did I not get rid of it? Did I miss the wrong group? What did we just do it on?
I think you did it on for just
What did I just do? Wasn't here.
wait a minute, which group were you trying to?
Well, I forgot now. I thought it was a Confluence one, but now it's gone. See how I have an AC? I should have 2 Confluences, no? Because I have 2 Jira softwares. But I left Bob's group. Why the heck did I do this? All right, let's try it. Let's do it again. So let's go over here. We're gonna get rid of this group. So Bob, yeah, it was right here. So this was the user. So this is the user. Okay, so we got rid of the Confluence users. So let's go to the groups. And it was Confluence-users. which is now missing. Oh, here we go. This one right here. This one here, so I can go to there. Notice no is not default to anything. You can delete the out of the box ones. You got to go through some hoops.
Yeah,
but you can delete it. Holy moly! Why would you do that though? I mean, I can see some picky users, but that's just like asking for trouble. I think
it is asking for trouble, but the important part isn't whether or not the important
part is that this statement is true.
Is whether or not you can, and the answer is yes, you can. Si se puede.
Where's Rodney with his Dutch?
I don't know. Rodney might be commenting with his Dutch.
Rodney in the comment section tells what it looks like in Dutch. Right. Instead of using original groups, they can introduce different. Yeah. So again, yes, you can. Don't please, but yes, you can. As you can see, I am a quote unquote trained professional, and I got confused.
Quotes on both.
Quotes on both. All right, so here's what we got though. The user role in Jira Software default group has this for the Acme and Confluence people. Okay, so user role in Jira Software not default is just the site admins. I don't know what I'm looking at here, Bob, but product admin role in the Jira default group. Okay, what do you want me to do with this? Okay, so Jira Software users. Okay, so at one time this group may have served as only as a default access group for the user roles. Your software currently it is also configured to provide the user and the product admin role in Confluence and access to Confluence specific functionality. Where's that group at? This one. Oh, it goes this way. Going this way. I'm reading the table the wrong way. So this group gives you Jira user, which is what it was designed for, but it also gives you Confluence, which is not what it was designed for, but you modified it to do that.
Somebody added it, yeah.
Also gives you the ability to be the admin in Confluence, and also gives you Confluence specific functionality. So that means that it's being used as a group somewhere to like do a space permission or to a restricted page.
Yep.
So I don't know where the question is, but just know that you have all these customizations, I guess. You can do pretty much anything you want.
And kind of playing around with what you can do with groups. All right. Yeah. Even the custom groups that are created when you subscribe to a product, you can actually go in afterwards and completely monkey around with its meaning.
Yeah. Okay, so now I understand what the table state. Yeah, so there's Jira admins, which is like a default one, gives you Jira admin, but it also can be a user role in Confluence. The Confluence people, which is a custom one, can give you Jira Software. Even though it's called Confluence people, can give you access to Jira Software. This is just showing you the complexity and mess that you can get yourself into. But if any, like in my opinion, this is gonna be a hot take. If your Jira looks like this, I'd fire your Jira admin on the spot. Just my 2 cents. Why would you have this set up like this? It's just so confusing. This is why people have a hard time with Jira, and this is why Jira admins charge a lot of money, right?
Yep.
If your Jira looks like this, please reach out to a release team. Link in the description down below. Okay, that's a lot of complexity. So given the examples, you can see removing, deleting groups, removing users from a group can have multiple repercussions. This is why this is probably going to be the hardest section of the test. Bob, what did you get in this section of the test?
I got pretty high.
Yeah, you got the groups down. Any group can be deleted except for the site admins group. Okay, so this is now a fact, people. But apparently you can now delete any group, as I learned. What's the risk of deleting the group? So as we learned earlier, you can have a lot of consequences. What if the group does not provide product access? Is it still a risk? Yes, because if the group is used in the product level, right, for like filters and stuff like that, it won't have any impacts on the admin hub, but it will definitely have access or problems like you might just lost access to a project or something, or a filter or a dashboard. Can you delete the default access group? Yes, but you have to go through some hoops as you saw. They cannot be the default. You have to make them undefault.
Right, and you can only do that
if you have another group.
If you have more than one, if that is the sole default access group, you have to make another group a default access group before you can unpopulate it and then delete it.
This is a good one. Can you recreate a deleted group? Yes, a deleted group can be recreated with the same name, but there's a few things that won't be restored automatically. So the group membership and the group will not be re-added as a global permissions.
That's actually a really, really important question. And so I would study that card.
Study. You heard it here first, folks. Impact of user changes. So changes to a user's account status in the organization will impact their product access. So any of the following changes would result in a user being unable to access an organization's site and product. So suspending access, removing a user, deactivating, deleting. Holy moly, man, this is stuff that you gotta have a clean mind, folks, when you go study and take the exam. Do not be thinking about a move like me right now. Okay, so let's explore some user-related changes in the product and the access of the history. So change, suspending a product access or users. Users can no longer access or perform any tasks in that organization and the site and its sites and products. However, the user is not removed from any groups. They retain their role as an org admin. What the heck did I just read about? Suspending access for users. So users can no longer access the platform. Okay, so when you suspend them, it just says that they're grayed out, but their group access didn't go away.
Right.
That's what I'm reading.
They're still a member of that group.
They lose access to Jira and Confluence, but if you have a change of heart because they're suspended, you can re-enable them and they'll pick it up just like whatever, like just like if they were never removed. But when you remove a user can no longer access the products or perform any tasks in the organization and its sites and products. The user is deleted from all the groups and access. So once you delete somebody, then that's a little bit more extreme, right? They're gone from everything.
Right.
So revoking end user product access. So that's literally just removing them from a group, which means that they also then lost whatever product stuff happened as well. And then removing product access, very similar thing. Okay. Man, Bob, this is so long. I want to just finish this. Okay. User is deleted from all the groups and roles. This one. The user is not removed from any groups. This one. User retains any roles as org admin or product admin when access is restored. This one. User loses Jira admin privileges, but may still be a Jira. So this one. Users removed from all groups that gave product access as a product admin. Users removed from all groups that gave product access as a product. So I think this one again. A user is removed from all groups that gave product access to the user. So this one. User loses end user access to Confluence unless they were a Confluence admin. So that's this one again. Yay. Got them all right. All right. So which change results in the user losing all access to both Confluence and Jira? So this one and this one. And this one. Which results in using access to. So if you suspend them, they lose access. If you remove the user, they lose access. And if you revoke their access, they lose access. So wouldn't it be 3? Oh, do you know why this one's not true?
It's only for remember when you suspend or remove, you're gonna suspending automatically just won't let them have access to any product at all.
Yeah, but
right?
the third one's not true because they could still be an admin, so they still have access to the
right.
product.
They could. So if you revoke either user or administrator product access, that's to one product.
Yeah, and it says all.
Yeah,
that's also true. So yeah. All right. So which change results in a user no longer being able to access or perform any task in the organization as well as sites and products? So removing a user. Dang, it says select 2. Folks, if you do what I just did, you will get it wrong. It is not partial credit. Freaking Atlassian.
Read the entire question.
Read the entire question. You want? I just did this to show you guys, for the record, that you got to read the entire question. All right, continue so we can wrap this up because I need to get out of here. All right, so your organization contains the following groups: Confluence reviewers, Jira developers, site admins, which is definitely true. All the groups are mutually exclusive. I have no idea what that means. None of the groups provide default access groups. We don't know. One of the groups has at least one member. No, because you could have empty groups. Any of the groups can be deleted. No, because site admins cannot be deleted. None of the groups contain suspended users. True, because if they're suspended, no, that's just not false. Okay, maybe then it's this one. Let's go with A, because it can't be this one. Because
all right, I'm gonna put in C, and I already know what the correct answer is. I just want you to think.
I get it. The site admins have at least one person. Because you created the Jira or the thingy. So site admins always have to have somebody.
It always has to have an org admin. It can never be empty.
Veronica can still view the billing history of your organization's products, but she can no longer perform. Folks, when you go through this question like this, where you're kind of like on the fence, flag it, come back to it later, because you don't want to dwell on it, because I could have sat here and pondered for 5 more minutes, but then I don't know if I'm going to get to the end of the exam. So flag it, put an answer in there, flag it, and then come back once you've gone through all the questions, because that's just going to let you keep pushing through, so you make sure you get to all the questions, because the last thing you want to do is walk out of that exam having completed not 100% of the test, right? Because if you ran out of time, you only have 180 minutes, then that would be a shameful thing.
You have 3 hours for roughly 60 questions. You actually, as I have, I've been able to go through the exam several times.
Yeah,
and flag which ones I'm unsure about, so that on the next go through I can look through. So
Veronica can still view billing history on your organization's products, but she can no longer view the dashboards, select the users in the drop downs, transition issues, or edit her own issue comments. So what is happening here? So the user product role was deleted. I think that's a valid reason. Confluence users, maybe, we're not sure. Her org admin role was revoked. This is definitely not true, because she could still see billing. Her Confluence admin privileges were revoked. I don't know what Confluence has to do with Jira here, because these are Jira things. Her account was deactivated. No, because she wouldn't be able to see anything, and her account was suspended because she can't see anything. So why? Only one of these makes sense. Her account was suspended. This would mean that she can't access anything. And that should include billing history. So I don't think that this is correct. And her account's deactivated. This is the same thing, but from a managed. So I don't think that those are correct.
Okay.
Bob, I do want to ask you, Bob, real quickly. In the exam, you see how when I click on this just to highlight the text, it selects the answer for me. Is that true in the exam UI?
No.
Okay, because I like to highlight.
Yeah.
And I'm like selecting answers, and if I'm not careful, then I just submitted it with the wrong answer.
Right.
Okay. Her Confluence admin privileges were revoked. I don't think E is correct, because E and F are the same the same answer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't think C is correct, because then she can still see the org. So that wasn't revoked.
Okay.
So it's got to be, and I know A is correct. I know this is 100% true, but I don't understand what Confluence has to do with any of this. But if I had to pick, I feel like B is more correct than D.
Okay.
I'm going to click on that. But why is this incorrect? The user product role was deleted. I guess it's not conclusive. Product roles cannot be deleted. Oh, see, deleted and removed is very powerful.
You can't delete roles.
Yeah, you can't delete the roles. But to me, delete means like it's not selected. So yeah, word choice is very, very important. So D's correct. Okay, so then that would have eliminated A. And B and D were the other two options that I was looking at. All right. I am good. I think we're good for this one. We finished section 2. So come back next week as we continue down module 3. And the week after that, module 4. And then I'm off to test taking land.
So,
all right, everybody, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you smash the subscribe button. Check out the links down below. We also got a merch store for the Jira Life. Help support the Jira Life. And we got a lot of other cool shirts on there. Paid courses if you want to take your Jira skills to the next level. And I think I am going to be making an advanced Jira admins course very soon as well. And it's going to be containing a lot of the contents from here. So make sure you check out those Udemy courses and make sure you hit that subscribe button and subscribe over to the Jira Life as well. If you haven't already, links in the description will be made available. So thank you very much for everybody who's here, and we'll see you all next week.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.